Alright guys, we're back for floor 85 today, and fortunately we have no audio. When I recorded the run, I apparently did not record the audio of the game, and that's probably because I turned off the music in the game because that gives you copyright strike or copyright. So fortunately we did not have audio for this run. Nah, I'm just kidding, guys. So instead of giving you guys zero audio for the run, I just did what any normal sane person would do. I just reran it with a worser team setup, worser RNG, but I still beat it just so you guys have audio. And I will include like a very quick run of the first one. That's in fewer turns. I think 16 versus 21. Right, it's a pretty big difference in amount of turns, but it's just because 0.2 Gojo didn't Black Flash at all for this run. But, so we have audio for this run, and then I'll also include the first run. So you can have whichever one you want to watch. Obviously, the run that I will show first, which was the second run, has audio in it. But it takes longer, it's worse to RNG. Happens. But it's consistent. The team is consistent, it works. It can probably beat the floor 10 out of 10 times. I don't think anything can go wrong that would cause it to lose, besides the boss stunning people permanently. So we're going to start with the floor and then explain the team. So 80 is 85 or 86? 85, I was right. Okay, 85. Floor 85. This boss honestly isn't really anything special. There's no crazy limitations. The boss really just, from what I can stand, he stuns occasionally, like every 4 turns. Maybe it'll try to stun, which isn't even that crazy. And every 4 turns, that's like nothing, man. Or Blue Gojo, that's like 2 of Blue Gojo's ults, you know. So it stuns, it has poison, which can be an issue. It doesn't poison often enough that I think it matters. Like I think other floors like 73 poisons more. The mushrooms and the limited tower for this month poison more. Like poison really is dangerous. Like you will die if you get really bad RNG and you just get constantly poisoned over time. Which is why in my second team setup I ran a healing bit just to make it more consistent. I did that. But it's not that bad. And then weak to flames, I don't. If you're running Jogo, it'll probably be good, but I'm not running Jogo. The physical technique and curse technique decrease is really annoying, but it's not that bad. I didn't find it to be super impactful in the turn rotations. And then just 20% damage and 20% curse. So if you don't know, because I learned this recently, but hybrid damage, so the ones that are like non-enemy, it says physical and jujutsu damage, actually is considered a third category of type of damage. So you have individual physical, which is like Yuji's, right? That does black flashes. He does all physical. And then you have second one is like curse technique. So like Nobara's. Nobara has physical, but you know, Nobara's resonance is all curse technique. That's considered a second category. And then the third category is if they do a mix of them. So you have Red YUTA. He does hybrid skill 3. He has hybrid damage. And that is actually considered a different category. So it would have 0 damage cut if you use a hybrid damage. Unfortunately, INO does not have that. While he is a hybrid character, quotation, his skills individually do each category. So his skill 1 is all category 1 physical, skill 2 is all curse techniques, and then his skill 3 is a self buff, and skill 4 is actually a hybrid. So his skill 4 ultimate is a hybrid. I'll show you guys right here. Skill 1 all physicals, skill 2 curse technique, skill 3 is a self buff, and ultimate is, I lied. I thought it was hybrid. No, it's all curse tech. So his entire kit is is nerfed in this fight. which isn't that bad. 20% is not that bad. It is not that bad, guys. Don't worry about it. But so the boss is really basic. I would say is for floor 80s, this is a very generic boss. I think you can go through most of this boss and not even have to read this description of it or look at this because there's nothing here. There's really nothing about the boss. So getting into the team, this was the second iteration of the team. I initially had Imaginary Youth for INO Maki, but the poison, like I said, if you do get bad RNG, Geto can die or Inumaki can die if the boss targets them a little bit more often than not. So, if you go for the most optimal run, then Imaginary Youth is probably better. If not, it's just straight up better. But if you're a little bit on the safer side, Doctor's Pride is pretty good. And it gives you 10 curse energy 2 times, so 20 curse energy, and it heals. So when I ran my second run, which will be the first one you watch, and it was way more consistent, but it took longer because Inumaki actually ran out of curse energy. So, and nothing here should be crazy besides this memory. I know a lot of people like to run irreplaceable moment memory instead because it gives your black flash rate, which is true. I do think this memory overall is better than No Soliciting, which is the current one I have Gojo. The only reason I'm running this Gojo one instead is simply for this. The 10 curse energy when he leaves is really good for Inumaki, assumingly you get bad RNG. If you don't get bad RNG and Inumaki isn't consistently targeted by the boss stealing his curse energy, then you don't really need this one as much and you can focus more on this damage for Gojo, which I think I did use on his on my first run, which has no audio, the one with no audio. That one I think I did use this bit, and it did work better, I think. If not, if I didn't use it for this bit, then just know that this bit is typically better. But I like this one for the curse energy for this floor. Every other floor, I usually just use that one. Inumaki, not INO, he simply just uses this one. I'm not going to try to say the name of it. It's way too long. It's just Old Man Sake. And this one is his best bit, as everybody know at this point. It is his best memory. It buffs both physical and curse techniques, which is already a good thing for Inumaki as he does both, right? He's hybrid, quote unquote. But this is the main reason why he's so good. He will always have this up. So he'll always have 20% damage dealt increase on top of his own damage dealt increase that INO gives himself. And then he'll then have another 30% on top of that. So 20, 30, 50, and most importantly, he gives himself 10 curse energy. So every time he does skill 2 for the rotation, he does skill 2, it costs 20. He gets 10 back. It actually only truly costs 10. It basically turns INO into his own self-sufficient character. He doesn't need Kaito anymore to to wheel him around in a wheelchair anymore. He doesn't need a cane to walk. He is his own cane at this point. So he gets 30%, 50% damage dealt with that memory if you keep it up. But realistically, you can't keep it up because at some point you have to skill 3 and then ult or skill 3 and then do attack. So you will only get, so you always have the 20% up, but you won't always have the 30% up on top. But assumingly you have 50% up, also buffs himself with another 30%. And if you do 2 of these, that's 60%. So 60 plus 50 is 120, 111, 111, 111, 110. Oh my god, 110 damage. And then you ult. And then, well, assumingly you do skill 2 again, but most of the time you won't because it will always prioritize ultimate for co-op ults. Assumingly, and then you ult right after, and it gives yourself another buff. But this is curse technique buff, not damage dealt, as we already checked. I mean, this also just gives insane, so he's already having multipliers on himself. So INO benefits greatly from debuffers, as he buffs himself so much now to the point that any other buffer like Yaga, and Yaga is useful, but any damage dealt buffs like SR Nanami, SSR Momo, I think those are the only two I really know of that do damage dealt. Yeah. Red Gojo. That's why Red Gojo, Domain Gojo, was not as helpful, because Domain Gojo does damage dealt increase, but INO is already so heavy, over 100% damage dealt to himself. He doesn't really need it. He really needs Curse Technique, if possible. Curse Technique / Physical Technique, any stat debuff. So, in this run, this is actually the team I used for floor 89, I believe, something along this. Instead of Kama, I used a melee character like YUTA, because it's all physical floor. But the strategy here is we double ult together initially in the first few turns with Inomaki and INO, because INO's ultimate provides curse energy for his cooperator, 14 curse energy, which allows Inomaki to kind of negate some of that RNG, right? Just give him a little bit of a ration. And you do it early, and then you still have ultimate for the final turns of this Blue Gojo here. So you're not missing anything on ulting early. If anything, you just get more damage, right? You just maximize the first early turns for this Gojo here to do as much damage as you can before he leaves. As Inomaki gets his most debuffs in his ultimate, right? 40%. Yeah, 40% versus his 27%. Even though this just lasts more than 4 turns, and it can go up to 50% if he's low HP. Oh, targets. Well, if the opponent is HP low enough. So skill 3 will be usually better, but in the early phases before Blue Gojo ults, the boss is never below 50%. It's like above 80% maybe. So ultimate is better overall. It's just more consistent, right? That's about it. I mean, it's not really much to talk about, guys. It's a simple floor. I think this is probably one of the most easiest floors I've ever done. Probably because I have this guy. No, I mean, he makes it so works. But if you don't have Blue Gojo, you could, hopefully you do. Hopefully you can run this Blue Yuta. This Blue Yuta is really good too. He's really good. I don't know if Sukuna can be ran here, but I don't doubt it. I'm sure this guy can be ran at this point. I hate that Sukuna, man. Sukuna sucks. But enough stalling. Just enjoy the runs.
Shage. やってやる。事実に即し、己を律する。食らい尽くせ。筋子。ほらほら。さて、シャゲ。やってやるよ。ベストを尽くす。餌の時間だ。筋子。さて、勘弁。やってやるよ。ベストを尽くす。食らい尽くす。砕けろ。ベス ストを尽くす。2番霊気食らい尽くす。砕けろ。せーの。ほら。うっと鮭鮭。おし。食らい尽くす。砕けて。始めるぜ。とどめだ。明太子了解。せーの。来訪随従開。無謀ではおかか。急いだ方がいいな。食らい尽くす。砕けろ。せーの。来訪随従開。来訪随従開。無謀ではコン。ベストを尽くす。2番霊気。餌の時間だ。砕けろ。せーの。来訪随従開。畳みかけよう。好きだら鮭。おし。食らい尽くす。砕けろ。ほらほら。ほら。来訪随従開。好きだ。ここで殺す。おし。食らい尽くす。砕けろ。来訪随従開。来訪随従開。無謀でここで殺す。おし。2番霊気。餌の時間だ。砕けて。せーの。来訪随従開。無謀おかか。ここで殺す。おし。餌の時間だ。砕けろ。無料クーズ。始めるぜ。とどめだ。終わらせよう。了解。すな。来訪随従開。あとは頼んだよ。では責任躍動。好きだらおかか。これも時代当時の急いだ方がいいな。餌の時間だ。砕けろ。これで決める。仮払い。来訪随従開。来訪随従開。好きだらコン。出方を伺うか。やってやる。2番霊気。食らい尽くす。筋子。これで決める。仮払い。来訪随従開。無謀鮭。これも時代当主の務め。餌の時間だ。砕けろ。これで決める。仮払い。来訪随従開。来訪随従開。 鮭鮭。
これも時代当主の務めさ。
餌の時間だ。砕けて始めるぜ。とどめだ。明太子了解。これで決める。割り払い。来訪随従かい。うご勘弁。
こちらは準備
や
完了。
ってやる。2番霊気。食らい尽くす。砕けろ。電屈。ドラうごかか。
小細工を。
急いだ方がいいな。
さあ本番だ。
餌の時間だ。砕けろ。来訪随従かい。来訪随従かい。うごか
小細工。
急いだ方がいいな。餌の時間だ。筋子。
これで決める。割り払い。
来訪随従1番かい。来訪随従かい。うごでは勘弁。
これも時代当主の務めさ。
事実に即し己を律する。食らい尽くせ。砕けろ。
終わりにするぞ。割り払い。
来訪随従かい。うご鮭鮭。
小細工を。
おし食らい尽くす。砕けて始めるぜ。とどめだ。
意外にやるものだね。
明太子了解。
これで決める。割り払い。
来訪随従かい。隙だらけだ。おかか。
こちらは準
急いだ
備完了。
方がいいな。餌の時間だ。砕けろ。
これで決める。割り払い。
来訪随従かい。
一丁上がり。